Welcome to the Tuning In podcast, where we talk alignment, intuition, and our internal guidance system. We cover woo-woo topics in an approachable and practical way. I'm your host, Dana Evans of Alignful.com. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Tuning In podcast. I am your host, Dana Evans. And today is the day. Oh my gosh. If you listened to last week's episode 74, where you heard the amazing and inspiring interview with Huey on her experience with her inner voice, following the nudges and the massive transformation that she underwent in her life by doing that. You know, she moved, she had a baby, she left a literal toxic environment that had mold in it, and she bought a home sight unseen. I mean, Katie followed the nudges and she dove in with both feet, and what a transformation and what trust it took for her to do that, trust in her inner voice. So having heard that, you might be like, well, what the heck? You know, what was going on in her life? And so today you're going to get a peek inside of Katie's inner voice session and what actually unfolded. Now, I'm not playing the entire session. I do honor Katie, and she's, of course, given me permission to play this, but I do cut out anything that's a little too personal or anything that references names. We don't use that because that's not necessary. That's private between her inner voice and her, really. And of course, me as the facilitator, I hold that container very sacredly. But we are sharing some clips of her session so that you can experience what it's like. I know inner voice sessions, when I talk about it, it can be very confusing. You don't understand. And so the best way for you to understand is to actually be there and to be present to it. And my only request to you as you're listening to this session is to slow down, take a breath, and tune in for yourself. I'll be asking Katie questions to her inner voice, but while you can listen and experience, I also encourage you to listen for answers from your own inner voice, for you to tap into that inner wisdom so that you too can hear the guidance. And of course, if this is calling to you, especially after listening to this episode, if you're like, whoa, I need this in my life, right? If you are ready to step in and hear from your inner guidance, if you want to tap into the most effective and rewarding process possible to connect to your inner voice and your higher self, if you want to feel safe to follow your guidance, to trust the nudges like Katie did, and to make confident and effortless decisions from your inner voice in your life and in your business, then let me know. Reach out to me as a DM on Instagram at Dana_Evans. Send me an email to Dana, DANA, at Alignful, ALIGNFUL.com. And we'll jump on a call. I want to hear more about what you're desiring, what sparks within you, why your inner voice is nudging you to connect with me, right? We do a customized insight coaching experience, right? It's a personalized, 3-month deep dive into self. It's a journey back home, something that we're desperately missing right now. We spend so much time looking outside of us for answers, looking to the experts, looking even to coaches, right? Looking to programs and certifications and articles and blah, 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 blah. We look and seek ourselves in the external. But this 3-month coaching experience is a time for you to come back home, to come back to self, to decondition from societal expectations, to release old programming, to question, is this mine? Do I believe this? Do I want to believe this? Is this serving me? To free trapped emotions, old emotions that are keeping you from moving forward. And actually, once and for all, turn the dial toward your inner voice and tap into that wisdom so that you can hear it moment to moment on a regular basis. It's about leaning into what is right for you. It is an unlearning as we're focused less on doing and the analytical mind, and we're focused more on being and releasing while building trust in yourself. Oh, this is the pinnacle of so much work that I've done over the years of my own inner work, right? It's the pinnacle of the sloth experiment, all that I learned and gained from that. And it's a merging of my two areas of expertise, which is inner voice facilitation and mind-based coaching and energy work. And combined, it's the most magical experience for you. And it's set up where we do 3 weeks on, combination of mind and inner voice coaching with then 1 week of integration for you to explore. We've got on-demand emotional clearing sessions. If a lot of stuff is coming up, you can phone a friend, which is me, phone a coach, and we can clear that right away so that you can continue to move forward, building and designing a life that is perfect and right just for you. So that's the Insight Coaching Experience. I am in love with it. And I am so excited for you. If you're feeling called to do this, to step into something bigger, right, to come back home to yourself, then this is perfect for you. So of course, let me know, but otherwise, tune into your own inner voice during this session with Katie. And I would love to hear on Instagram at Dana_Evans if you had any insights or experiences that came through during the session. So without further ado, here is the first and hopefully not the last inner voice session for you to tune into. All right. So yes, we're going into the inner voice. That makes me happy. We are recording. So I am going to go ahead and wave goodbye to the mind of Katie. And for the rest of the call, I'll be speaking directly to your inner voice. And we're just going to hand the microphone to the inner voice. We'll breathe. Inner voice of Katie. We're welcoming you to come forward. We're inviting you to the conversation. Yeah, so good.
I'm feeling the tingle in my heart and my gut that I usually feel.
Inner voice, is that you? Inner voice, are you giving the tingles to Katie? Welcome, inner voice. Thank you for showing Katie that you're here. Inner voice, is there anything, any word that you want to start off with to share to Katie, or any feeling that you want her to experience?
The letter P popped up.
Beautiful. Inner voice, what is P? Can you give Katie another symbol or meaning?
Process came up.
Process. Good. Beautiful. Katie, say the words exactly as they come. Process. Inner voice. What process? What do you mean by process?
Parent.
Parent?
Parent.
Does Katie have to process something with her parents or other parents, or is it her parenting?
Becoming a parent.
Oh, inner voice, you want to talk about becoming a parent?
Yes.
What do you want Katie to know about this topic in her voice?
It's gonna be okay.
It's going to be okay. In her voice, there's a lot of scary things happening with becoming a parent. You're just saying it's going to be okay?
Be bad.
Does Katie's mind agree with that inner voice?
No.
What? Why not inner voice?
Uncertainty.
Good. Uncertainty. And inner voice, is anything certain?
Losing freedom.
Oh, beautiful. Inner voice, what does freedom mean to you?
Feeling good.
Feeling good? How can Katie feel good in her voice when it comes to parenting, becoming a parent?
Movement.
Movement? In her voice, does she need to work out like 5 days a week for 27 minutes? Is that what you mean?
No.
What do you mean by movement in her voice? What does that mean?
Intention.
Intention.
Mindfulness.
Hmm.
Practice. Presence. Strength.
Strength. How can she move those things in her voice? How can she hone in on that? Tell us more in her voice.
She has it in her. She knows what she wants to do. She just isn't.
In her voice, how does she know? Do you know what she wants to do in her voice?
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that inner voice, or do you want to stay on parenting for a little bit?
It is parenting.
Oh, inner voice.
It is preparing to become a parent and not losing herself.
Inner voice, can Katie lose herself?
No.
Inner voice, the Mayans get a lot of stories about losing themselves and their identity. Why can Katie not lose herself?
Katie knows who she is.
What happens if she starts to feel disconnected to who she is in her voice? What could she do?
When she loses connection with who she is, she acts out of accordance with who she is. She can find grounding practices like dirt.
Is that, yeah, dirt, inner voice, do you like the dirt?
Love being outside.
Oh. What is ground? Yeah, please.
I love feeling the dirt and the grass and the earth.
Do you want more of that inner voice?
Yes, I want the water.
Ooh, you want water in her voice. What will water do in her voice for Katie? Cleanse. What does cleansing mean to you in her voice? What would that experience be like for Katie?
Coming back.
Coming back to what, inner voice?
My roots.
What are Katie's roots in her voice?
Feeling free.
Brave?
Free.
Free. Inner voice, is Katie free?
Yes, but she doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, why doesn't she feel free in her voice?
Trapped, isolation.
Is she trapped in her voice?
Only by herself.
No. Yeah, in her voice, why do the minds do that? They feel trapped, but they trap themselves. What could she do in her voice? If you're saying she's already free and she wants to feel free, but she's creating this trapped feeling, what could she do to feel not trapped in her voice?
Get outside with intention.
What intention does she have to have in her voice? What do you mean by that?
Silence.
so she needs to shut up and go play in the dirt in her voice.
Basically.
In her voice, is it the mind who you want to silence?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. In her voice, do you hear all of the things that Katie's mind goes on and on about?
How can I not?
In her voice, what is your take on Katie has a very, very active mind. What is your take on that? Is it okay?
It's productive, but it's selfish. It's trapped in a loop. Avoiding the bigger picture. And therefore we need action, inaction. Inaction is
Inner voice, is inaction okay?
sometimes.
Inner voice, what does action look like to you, inner voice? If inaction is okay sometimes, what is action then? Is it checking off Katie's to-do list and being super productive? What does action mean to you?
Feeling fulfilled.
Yeah, that's what I thought, inner voice. See, the mind thinks action is a very different thing. So you're saying action equals feeling fulfilled. So can Katie access that feeling by what could she do? What type of action could she do to have that feeling that you're describing in her voice?
Turn inward.
And when you say turn inward, can you say that in a different way in her voice?
Me.
Yeah, me. Yeah, in her voice, why doesn't she want to talk to you in her voice?
Fear.
Fear, yeah. What's the mind afraid of?
Process.
Process again. Yeah, I understand in her voice. Let's go back to that then. Let's go back to this process, this movement, this preparing of becoming a parent in her voice. What can you share with Katie?
Life won't be that different.
Oh.
Trust me.
How can she trust you in her voice? The mind is so afraid. There's so many new things and it's going to get turned upside down and have a new purpose. How can she trust that it won't be that different?
Happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah. What happens if Katie wants to tap in and her mind won't let her? What could she do in her voice?
Clear space.
Ah, okay, clear space. What would that look like in her voice?
I'm envisioning my yoga room.
Oh, yeah, you want her to go to her yoga room in her voice?
Doodle.
Yeah, okay. Does she have to do yoga in there or can she just go in there?
No, she can just go in there. Light candle.
Ah. Oh, do you like candles in her voice?
I love candles.
Why do you like candles in her voice?
They're warm, they're inviting, they allow me, they allow
Allow. What do they allow in her voice?
calm.
Ah. In her voice, are you calm?
For the most part.
When are you not calm in her voice?
When Katie can't get her shit together.
In her voice? In her voice, what happens when that's happening in Katie's mind? If you're not calm at that point, what are you?
Eager?
Oh, so when that happens in her voice, do you feel eager to help Katie?
Yes, calm.
Yeah, you want to guide her to calm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, in her voice, that's so kind of you. You just want to help her. Do you give her signs in her voice when you're wanting her to listen to you?
Yes.
What do you do? How do you try to communicate with Katie?
Visions.
Oh.
Tingles.
Mm, yeah.
Feeling. He knows the feeling.
So she knows. She knows when you're trying to talk to her.
Mostly.
Mostly, yeah. But she just doesn't always listen.
No.
But in her voice, are you going anywhere? Are you gonna leave her for not listening?
That's not possible.
Why is it not possible in her voice?
Because I am her.
Ah. Yeah, so in her voice, you are Katie. That's beautiful. Do you love Katie in her voice?
Yes.
Always in her voice?
Mostly.
When wouldn't you love her in her voice?
And she doesn't me.
When she doesn't what in her voice?
Love me.
Oh. What does love mean to you then in her voice?
Acceptance.
Ah. So you're saying you don't always accept Katie in her voice?
No.
Why
That's not
not?
me.
That's not what you're saying.
Katie doesn't always accept me.
Aha, thank you in her voice. But you always accept Katie.
Always.
Yeah. What if she was like Oprah? Would you love her more?
No.
What in her voice, what if she was like a really bad person from the mind perspective? Would you love her less? Exhale.
No.
Why not in her voice?
Because I am Katie.
Yeah. Did you choose Katie in her voice? You chose to be Katie?
Yes.
Why? Her mind's all crazy and, it's running around questioning you all the time. Why'd you choose Katie in her voice? Why'd you choose this experience that she's having?
She's capable and
Mm-hmm.
possibility.
Is this fun for you, Inner Voice? This, you said possibility. Is that a fun thing?
Yes.
What's possible, Inner Voice, for Katie?
Wild success, happiness, personal adventure, travel, love.
Inner Voice, can you define wild success for Katie's mind?
Dancing in the kitchen. Dancing in the kitchen.
I love you, Inner Voice. Thank you for that description. Beautiful. What is happiness? Can you describe that?
The love in my life. I just see myself dancing in the kitchen.
Does Katie dance in the kitchen, Inner Voice?
Yeah, when she's happy, when she feels free.
And you're saying that's always possible for her?
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful, Inner Voice. Oh, Inner Voice, that's so sweet.
I'm imagining myself or seeing myself in my bedroom. It's morning. The shutters are cracked and the light is coming through. And I'm just getting out of bed and I don't hurt. My body feels rested. I feel energized. Starts in the morning.
Always start.
My day. The tone. What's possible. Reset.
Why are you showing this to Katie, Inner Voice? What do you want her to know about that vision?
Struggle.
Struggle?
Struggle.
Oh, what about that?
Resistance.
Is the mind trying to come up, Inner Voice?
Yes. And
tell us.
pattern.
Yeah. Oh.
Resistance to new patterning, habits, old stories, old ways that bring joy, but no longer serve. Sleeping in, not getting up, thinking she needs the extra sleep.
Does she not need extra sleep, Inner Voice?
No.
What does she need, Inner Voice? She's pregnant. She wants to sleep. What do you have to say about that?
Fulfillment.
So, Inner Voice, if she doesn't need to sleep in, and she can just get up, and that will help her with fulfillment. How does fulfillment fit into that?
Breath.
Inner Voice, will you wake her up when it's time to wake up, or does she have to set an alarm?
She wakes up naturally.
And then she wants to stay in bed and you want her to get up, Inner Voice?
Yes, she loves her husband. He likes to sleep. He's a world-class cuddler.
Oh, Inner voice, do you like cuddles?
So much.
Inner voice, why? Why the cuddles?
Love. So much love.
Oh. So inner voice, if you're telling her she doesn't need to sleep in anymore and she'll wake up naturally, what do you want her to do in the morning then? If she can she wake up and cuddle and then get out of bed?
Breathe.
Aha. Can she breathe in bed or out of bed?
In bed.
Okay.
Eventually, out of bed.
Okay. So she can take it slow in her voice?
Definitely. Katie and slow.
Is that okay in her voice? Is she allowed to take things slow?
She is. This is her pace.
Yeah. So she doesn't have to be faster, be better, do more?
No.
Does her mind agree with that in her voice?
No.
Yeah, why not? What does the mind try to have Katie do?
Too much.
Yeah, too much. In her voice, does Katie know when she's doing too much? Do you help her?
Yes.
Yeah. And does she stop in her voice?
Yes. She gets tired.
Yeah. So she's tired because she's doing too much in her voice?
Yes.
Not because there's something wrong with her?
Yes.
Yeah. How can she not be tired in her voice?
Breath.
How will she know when she needs to breathe in her voice?
When she's tired.
Okay, beautiful. This is helpful for her mind and her voice. Thank you for sharing that. What's not aligned anymore?
Living through Instagram.
Living through Instagram?
Yes. The blog was daily, connected, made friends. It worked. I burned out. Expectations.
So the blog is an old habit that she doesn't need. Yeah.
Yes.
And what did you mean when you said living through Instagram in her voice? Constant. So too much. So that's an old thing, is too much Instagram in her voice?
Yes, build up.
Ah, okay.
There's a fear of build up, if not constant.
Oh, got it. So that's an expectation in her voice.
Yeah.
So this is a great topic in her voice in general, because a lot of people in my world and Katie's world, we feel that expectation, that need to be on social media, and it's either we're doing it all or we go dark and we're not doing it at all, like Katie is right now. So how could you help Katie know when to be on Instagram, when to respond to messages, and when to not?
Authentic. When it feels good. Not forced.
Not forced. Okay. So right now, Katie hasn't been on Instagram. Do you want her to get on and deal with these messages soon, or will you tell her when she can do that?
I'll tell her when.
You'll tell her when.
I'm feeling just like a vibration that I can't quite.
Will you give her that feeling in her voice?
Yes.
Okay. So she doesn't have to worry just because she had the call, and we now know that you want her to respond to these messages, but the mind doesn't have to worry that it now has to schedule it and force it and do it. You'll guide Katie as to when she can do that.
Yes.
Okay, and you'll give her that feeling that she just experienced.
Yes.
Is that the same with inner voice? Do you care if she's posting on Instagram? Do you want her to, or do you not want her to?
I don't care.
You don't care. Okay, so she can do that, whatever feels good, whatever feels authentic.
No, she doesn't care.
Okay, good. And she doesn't have to worry that if she's not on Instagram, she's not going to get clients, and then she's behind and she's not up to date on things.
No, not the path.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing. That's enlightening, inner voice. That's going to be very helpful for the mind of Katie. Is Katie behind, inner voice?
Yes.
What does behind mean to you, inner voice?
Growth in self.
What was that, inner voice?
Lack.
Lack. Aha. So does Katie, you're saying Katie has lack?
Katie has space.
Katie has space, but she perceives that as lack?
Yes.
But you perceive, so tell me if I've got this right, inner voice. We're using the word behind, which comes up for Katie. The mind sees behind as lack, but you see behind as space?
Yes.
Oh, well, that's a very lovely way to see that idea. So that's why you said she's behind, because she has space. Is it a problem, inner voice, for Katie to have space and to feel behind?
Yes.
What's the problem, inner voice?
Inaction.
Okay, good. Exhale. So, inner voice, what action do you want Katie to take if inaction is the problem?
Voice.
Voice. Okay.
Share. Be. Breathe.
But you don't care if she does that on Instagram. Where can she take action in her voice? Where can she share her voice and be free? Exhale. Mind doesn't know. The mind has a story.
With herself.
With herself? So inner voice, let me get this clear. She feels behind, which really means she has space. But there could be a problem there because of the inaction. But the action you want her to take is sharing her voice and being free. And you're saying she can do all of that with herself.
Yes.
Inner voice, that's groundbreaking. So all you're concerned about, inner voice, is her inaction around sharing her own voice and being herself, not around all the to-do list items that she has.
Yes, practice.
How can she practice inner voice?
Dark room.
Ah. Ooh.
Breathing and stretching, being, thinking, believing. Pause. Journaling. Being. Nightly.
So you want her to do that every night? You want her to go in a dark room with a candle and do all those things at night?
Yes.
Does she have to do all the things, or are there certain things? Will you let her know what things to do that night?
Yes.
In her voice, is this going to become an expectation that Katie's mind puts pressure on her to do?
Probably.
So what do you want to tell Katie's mind about that? Because you said you don't want Katie to do things that feel forced. So if you want her to do these things and enjoy them, how can the mind see it differently?
Feel free.
Okay. Is it okay if she doesn't do it sometimes in her voice?
Yes.
Okay. So you'll help her know when to do it and what to do.
Yes.
Okay.
Picturing being on the couch with Zach, laughing, being loving, sharing. It's okay.
What's okay in her voice?
Rest.
But you don't want her to sleep in her voice?
No.
When can she rest? Exhale. Inner voice. When is it okay for Katie to rest?
When she feels.
Yeah, so she can rest whenever she needs inner voice, whenever she feels like it. Breathe it out. The mind has a story. The mind has a story.
Yes.
Inner voice. Could Katie rest on a Wednesday at 11 a.m.?
Yes.
What about at like 2 p.m.?
Yes.
What about at 4 p.m.?
Yes. Always.
Is it always okay? It's always okay. So inner voice, why? So she can rest during the day.
Yes.
Yeah. And she doesn't have to be doing all the time.
No.
What does the rest provide for Katie in her voice?
Perspective. Free. Growth. Intention. Intentional rest.
Ah. In her voice, could she rest before she knows, like before she feels totally exhausted? Could she you said intention. Actually, let me just ask you, what does intentional rest look like in her voice?
Movement.
Okay, so we're back to movement. That's great. In her voice, here's what you said about movement before: intention, finding presence, and strength. Do you have anything to add to that for Katie?
Sweat. Heat.
Okay.
Breathe.
You want Katie to breathe, huh, in her voice?
More.
Yeah, more breath. Is there any certain way you want her to breathe? Do you care if she does a breathwork class or if she does yoga breathing or counted breathing, or do you just want her to breathe?
Slow. Just breathe.
And there you have it. Thank you so much for listening. As you can tell through the inner voice session with Katie, her inner voice covered a wide variety of topics. So we always ask the mind what topics it wants to cover. But as you can see, the inner voice kind of weaves between topics in different ways. Like you saw at the end of the session, or toward the end, this was actually the middle of the session, but the end of the recording that you heard, we circled back to this idea of movement and breathing and rest, which we also covered really early on in the session. So as a facilitator, what I do is I help guide the ebb and flow of the inner voice. And I take notes. You can hear a little clicking in the background, but I take notes so that when the inner voice comes back to another topic, I can ask about it and make sure that I understand it correctly. Because as a facilitator, I am essentially acting as the mind of that person. I'm interviewing the inner voice, but that person will need to be able to go back and listen. And so I like to ask and clarify all the questions as a mind would. So that is exactly what we're doing in the session. And Katie, you can tell too, as the session went on, she became deeper and more present with her inner voice. At the beginning, it was a lot of yes or no, a lot of one-word answers, a lot of breathing. You can hear me breathing in the background. I'm trying to get and remind her to get out of her head and drop into her inner voice. And then as the session progresses, and we did some cuts here to get you deeper into the session, but as the session progresses, you can see that Katie's inner voice is coming through more strongly. Her voice is actually stronger in general. It's more clear. She's stringing words together, making sentences, and all of this is very common. The more we ease out of the mind and into the inner voice, the more you can hear and become the inner voice and really experience speaking from that place. And Katie is a really beautiful example of a classic session. This is where it all starts, where it all begins. You get to tap into that. And then, of course, with the insight coaching that I talked about at the beginning, we're using the inner voice in every coaching session and we're practicing getting into it. And then using more mind-based coaching when you're not in the inner voice session to help your human mind actually follow through on the guidance and tasks from the inner voice. Because just like you heard in Katie's session, a lot of times it can be very difficult for the mind to follow through on what the inner voice suggests. Like Katie's inner voice said she can rest at any time. It said that the first thing to do when she wakes up is to breathe, and that she doesn't have to focus on getting clients right now, and she doesn't have to be on Instagram or respond to messages. But the mind is so conditioned that it's very easy for the mind to forget those things and go back to old mind patterns after a session, which is why with the Insight program, we combine the mind-based coaching and the inner voice sessions, because that to me is the most effective way to make changes in your life that are aligned and perfect for you. Right? We're deconditioning the mind, we're letting the inner voice step up, and then we're using the conscious mind to take actions that support the guidance of the inner voice. So I hope you enjoyed this session with Katie. Once again, I thank Katie so much for allowing us to share some snippets of her actual inner voice speaking through her. And I hope that gives you another taste of what this experience is like and what is possible for you. Every session, of course, is completely unique. And if you are curious to book a session, the link to that is in the show notes, but you can also go to alignful.com and click on the Work With Me page to book your own inner voice session. And of course, if you're interested in going further and deeper in this practice and really starting to live from your higher self, then you can send me an email or send me a DM on Instagram, dana@alignful.com, and we can jump on a call to learn more about the Insight program. I hope this session was insightful for you. And as always, if you feel like it would resonate with anyone you know, don't hesitate to share it or tag me on Instagram at Dana_Evans. Until next week, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Tuning In podcast. As always, if this would resonate with anyone you know, please share the episode. You can follow along with my journey on Instagram at Dana_Evans, or find me on my website at alignful.com.